Coming up on our Finding Better podcast, episode 156. Have you ever been in a situation where you were flying high, you owned the world, everything was going great for you, and one day everything came crashing down? The success that everybody celebrated, and the people who celebrated your success, and the beliefs that you had around everything just evaporated? Vince Covino is joining me. He's a man that built a $100 million business and that became bankrupted overnight. He was flying high. He owned the world. He was successful by everybody's definition of success. And we're going to talk about embracing failure and his experience in embracing failure and centering our lives not so much on our accomplishments and what other people define as success, but on ourselves, on our own identity, our own individuality, our own relationships, and the idea that we can come out of it a much better person with a much more defined purpose of who we are as people. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go out and build a $100 million company and bankrupt it, but there are so many lessons we can learn from Vince's experience that might enable you to shortcut that and just go straight to the good stuff. This is an amazing episode. Vince is an amazing man. Please share this. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life experiences and wisdom of people who have been there and done that and finding better in their own lives. Because, sometimes the best path to success can be to follow in the footsteps of others, right? And so today I have Vince Covino with me. And let me just tell you a little bit about Vince. We're going to talk all about finding better in life and work after Vince, you may not like this, and we can re-record it. After kind of being living a life that had lots of opportunity to find better in. How's that?
That's fair. It is.
Okay, good, good. But here's what happened. He built and he bankrupted a $100 million company, right? And we get to talk to him today. But we're going to talk all about that, and we're going to talk more importantly about what he learned from that experience and what we can learn from that experience that led him to be an eight-figure scaling expert and the CEO of WarriorSage. And today, he helps business leaders transform into what he calls heart-centered leadership. And we're going to talk a lot about that because my view, as a lot of you know, is that we need to get back to heart. So Vince, welcome to Finding Better. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. When you mentioned finding better, I thought of a decade ago. I heard this analogy, the old J.C. Penney manual that they used to mail out probably 100 years ago, had different types of shoes and clothing and products,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
good, better, best. And here's the $10 version, the $12 version, but the best is the
yeah,
$14 version.
yeah. And it's not about best. It's not about finding best, right? Because I believe that you just life happens in small steps. And then we work to build into longer strides. And we're always trying to get to our best, but if we can help people just find a little bit better, you know what? It can change the world. It can change the world. So tell us your story. Tell us about this $100 million. But before you do that, what is it that you want folks to get out of this conversation?
Well, for me, it is the better is so beautiful. And the better is getting a deep connection between the capitalist mind, the entrepreneur that's out grinding, growing it, seeking to get, the financial goals and the freedom that they sought out, and combining that with the deepness and the richness of heart, relationships, empathy, listening, kindness, being considerate, kind of like my wife that you just met. Living a bit
Amazing.
more like that, where as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, I really looked at it as, hey, this is a game, and the game is about how much profit can you make. And what does it take to do that? And that was really the goal. It was towards what I believed was a good end. I had a good life and I enjoyed my life. We were very happy with, at the time we'd been 22 years married. Uh, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. We have 6 kids together. And so it's been a beautiful ride. I'll just say that when I got a deep connection through failures, through experiences, it created for me a more expansive, more beautiful, more deep life centered in relationships. And that shift is something that if people took away today, it would serve them well.
And you know what, Vince? This is exactly why I was so excited to talk with you. Because, I retired about 3 years ago from 40 years in high tech. And, I kind of went through and helped bring to the world, 5 generations of technology, starting with PCs, right? Some of us remember those days. But starting with PCs, and then came the internet, and then came mobile computing and social net, whatever, social stuff. Um, what do they call it?
Social
Social,
media.
social media. God,
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
had the social media,
Facebook,
and then
scrolling,
yeah,
TikTok,
and
and
then
now it's
yeah,
TikTok. I mean,
and
there's
yeah, and then came e-commerce and everything e-commerce, and through it all, we've all gotten so smarter, so much smarter, right? And I've coined a phrase, and the phrase says we've gotten so smart we've forgotten our heart. And I believe that there is a real opportunity, especially with this next generation of technology called AI. I think that it's actually going to create a renaissance of heart. Now you are in the middle of it. You discovered this through the experiences that you had. Tell us about where you were, and a little bit about what happened, and then how you got to where you are today.
well, I've always been an entrepreneur since very early, since high school, really. Well, for that matter, since middle school, where I started buying cows. And in the last 20 years or so, I've had some great doubles and triples, a couple of home runs,
Hmm.
and a couple of big strikeouts. I've invested in maybe 20 businesses and lost 50, $60 million in that process. And I've invested in a handful of businesses that had great 7 and 8 figure exits and created an immense amount of wealth for myself and for several people around me. It was really in the biggest failures. One of my bigger businesses, I built 14 zoos and aquariums, and I just took after COVID, I took 7 of them through Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization. That's
Mm.
not something I ever imagined that I would do after borrowing $20 million or $25 million through COVID to feed thousands and thousands of animals, going from 150,000 a day in revenue, from 20,000 visitors a day to zero. Um,
Yeah.
it was
Ouch.
that taught me the deepest lessons that I truly look back, and my wife and I say, yeah, we just couldn't have probably learned that by reading from a book. We're
Oh,
readers. We read lots of books. It's what helped us develop a lot of business mastery classes and books and really being students. But the things that we learned about life and meaning and entrepreneurship and even capitalism, that's what taught me the most. It was truly an incredible mentor.
yeah. Yeah. Well, pain can be a really good teacher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, indeed.
And and so then what did you do? And lots of folks struggled through COVID.
Mhm.
But there's, as bad as it was and as terrible as it was, there were some silver linings around that really
Yeah.
dark rain cloud. So
Well,
what
for
did you
me, it
do?
was, yeah, for me, I'm so grateful for it. It changed everything, and I don't know if anything else would have. So at the time, my wife and I were preparing to go serve a 3-year mission for our church,
Uh-huh.
where we and our children would up and leave and probably go to Japan. I happen to be fluent in Japanese. I lived in Japan for a while and was a Japanese
Wow.
translator for when
Whoa,
United States
awesome.
and Japanese companies would sue each other. I would tell the judge and the jury what I was the translator. So that's probably where we would have gone. we were preparing for that. As part of my preparation for that, I did a deep dive into the history of my church to really understand it and to be prepared. In that process, I lost my testimony. I lost my belief in that religion. And
Oh,
even in the general ideas that I had and beliefs that I had about God. And I had deeply held what I would have considered to be unshaken, certain faith. And it dissolved entirely over the course of about a year. I mean, I was clinging on to it. But when that happened, and coincidentally, uh, Sequest, my main business of about a dozen businesses, was clearly failing just through COVID and increased pressure from animal rights activists and lawsuits with them and so forth. And the culmination of those two events brought me to a place where I realized I wasn't prepared to navigate some of this terrain because I wasn't just
whoa.
losing a business, I was losing my identity. Here's Vince, here's why you're on this earth. Here's what you're to do on this earth. Here's your work. That dissolved. Why you're
So,
here.
I mean, I'm sitting here kind of getting chills a little bit because, I mean, any one of those things leaving your life, either one of those, is a big deal, let alone both of them happening at the same time, right?
It was just it felt to me like a category 5 storm. I remember 10 years earlier, my mother had died. And because of my certainty in my faith, I was at peace. I have such a deep relationship with her. I would say that losing my faith was if losing my mother was a 7 on the earthquake Richter scale, then losing my faith felt like a 9. It felt far more intense. In other words, not two
Sure.
or three times more intense. It felt 10 or 20 times more poignant, more heavy on my soul. The fridge,
Hmm.
I'd wake up in the morning and just feel like there's like a fridge on my chest pressing on me. Vince, that's not your identity. That's not your purpose. Nobody knows what it is. This is all a mystery. It could be, there might just be annihilation when you die. I went through those periods, and about 6 months of that before I was introduced to psychedelics when things shifted yet again for me. But that 6 or maybe 9 month window was extremely dark. I remember on my 48th birthday going on a walk at 2, 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. Here I am. I'm 48. I'm thinking, okay, I'm basically if I'm lucky, I'm halfway done with my life, and I'm just realizing that everything I believed about life, capitalism, religion, why I'm here, who I am at my core, my relationship with my wife, my kids, and everyone else, none of it is what I believed it was for 48 years. And now what? Oh, and my business is right at the brink of bankruptcy, by the way. My main business that I have 30 or $40 million of personal guarantees on. What do I do with the balance of my life? And that led me to seek out a CEO mentor. Here I had 550 families that depended on me to feed
Hmm.
them and to feed their families and to their mortgages and their children. And I thought, they of all the people out there, they chose this company and
Hmm.
me. Maybe not even a company, they chose me. They said, oh, he can
Right.
provide. He can give me a place where I can make a contribution. I can feel recognized. I can do my life's work, because in the animal business, they're very passionate about the animals. It's family for them. Uh,
Hmm.
and so all of the weight of those things felt very immense. So I sought out a CEO mentor who, 45 minutes into my first session with him, I realized my life wouldn't be the same. I realized, okay, I'm going to rebuild everything right on top of these embers that were smoldering.
Let me ask you a quick question. What was there a, anything what in terms of your having lost your faith? What was the biggest thing that that happened that
Yeah.
led what was it that led you that way?
Johnson, I mean, it's a great question. I had spent 2 decades I would say mastering the history of the church that I belonged to, literally teaching it. I would have been a foremost scholar,
Hmm.
meaning that if people had a question about the doctrine or the history of the church, I'm one of the people that normally they would have sought out because I had read everything, and once I read it, it's pretty well there. In preparation for going to serve a mission, I thought I'm going to do what I did with Sequest, which I'm going to pretend like I'm not involved with Sequest, and I want to go into a place of full objectivity and understand what does PETA, what do animal rights activists, these people that are holding signs with my wife's face that says the Covinos have blood on their hands, they're making money off of animals in prison and so forth, right? What do they believe? What do they feel? And so I wanted to separate myself from them and truly understand. And I got to a place, ironically, about 6 minutes into a 39-degree ice bath, where I fully understood them. I literally understood what it was like to be them. And I developed a respect and a love for them, for their courage and their tenacity and the fight that they waged, the money that they put, millions that they put behind taking me down because they didn't believe in what I did. And I recognized all of it, and I saw them differently, not as terrible, evil, filthy humans, which is how I used to look at it. But I looked at it and understand, oh, they love animals and they in their heart of hearts believe I'm hurting them and using them. And I help, and that it was a breakthrough for me. So I decided I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to learn everything I can about why people leave this church, why people become atheists, why people don't believe in religion. I've heard it my whole life, and I've always said, well, this is what you don't understand, and I've defended it. Confirmation bias. Let me find this data. Let me confirm why you are wrong.
Right.
I left all that behind, and I said, I'm willing to challenge. And I believe this is really a sign of intelligence. Can I hold this belief really inviolate and come over here and understand this viewpoint? And I was able to do that. And as I did that, I realized, oh my goodness, the version of the history and the doctrine of what I had learned had been whitewashed. In other words, you cannot watch Fox News or MSNBC and get a true reality of where things are at politically, economic. You can't.
Hmm.
It's all
Right.
nuanced. It's an agenda, and they know what their followers want, and they placate them, and they pander, and it's a big manipulative game. Capitalism works generally the same way, and it's driven by greed. Milton Friedman would say that's a whole lot better than communism and control and so forth. And perhaps he's right, but I believe there's a higher form of capitalism that's evolving right now. It's really centered in an omni-win and significance and creating meaning in other people's lives. That's truly the best way for people to live, and people are starting to realize that.
That's
Nevertheless,
that
I
may be part of the renaissance of art that I was that I've been
100%, and that's what I
expecting.
believe is coming, and I believe
Yeah,
the AI productivity revolution is actually part of it.
I
That it
do
will
too.
help serve
I
us
do
in that
too.
process in a beautiful way.
Yeah,
I see it happening with my kids. I mean, it's just incredible. The world we live in is changing in beautiful ways, and I just am thrilled to be alive at a time like this.
yeah, me
So I
too.
realized that the things about church and religion had been created by the victors, by the people who it served them. And even today's political and capitalist society, it serves them to keep us small and confined and in control and compliant. The school system and so forth. And you hear all these things, and you're like, no, because guess what? Yes, the school system's amazing and we have freedom, and all of those things are true. And there
And
are beliefs and systems and dogmas that keep us in these little boxes, that keep us from experiencing our full truth, our full individuality, and the expression, the potential of that. And that's damning. And so I am all for burning that down.
that is wow, wow. You know, I have faith. I'm very strong in my faith. Um, but you know, in my own way, and some people question this. I don't go to church. I don't go to church. I learn on my own, and I believe that. Just like no one can tell you what my relationship with you should be like. No one can tell me what my relationship with God should be like.
Right.
And so, and I can't tell you what it should be like either. I think it's a very personal thing. But I mean, we all go through life, and we all have our experiences, and our experiences are ours alone. And what you just talked about, and sharing your experience, um, I think is going to help a lot of people. And people are going to hear your story, and they're going to go, you know what? They may not leave their church, they may not leave their faith, but just understanding. You said that PETA PETA folks were people that you just reviled, right?
Yeah.
Until you took a few minutes, and did you say it took you 6 minutes?
Well, I was in the ice bath for 6 minutes, but if you look at the culmination of my journey, every time there was a protest or a newspaper article, I've probably had 10,000 newspaper articles or segments, live TV segments that were 50, 80, 95% false. And so every time I would see that, I would say, okay, this is going to cause employees to, I mean, we experience sabotage, espionage, everything at the hands of people that were set on taking us down, animal rights
Wow.
activists of some nature. We had people on our payroll that were on payroll of other animal rights groups. We had people that came
Wow.
in and worked for us and were quietly taking pictures and recording meetings, pretending to, build our company, and yet we're feeding information about our private equity relationships and so forth. And just a fascinating journey. I came to
Mm.
understand why they did it. We had people that
Yeah.
came in and put laundry detergents in our shark tanks and wiped out entire systems, killed hundreds of animals.
What?
We experienced the espionage, sabotage, all of it.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. I understand it. I do. I understand. And I don't believe that you can really be a full multi-dimensional leader without being able to attune to what you might consider your enemy. Honestly, I'm not of the belief anymore, as I was before, that Jesus is God and died for my sins. But I can tell you that I've attuned to his teachings about loving one another and forgiving. I've attuned to them so much more deeply than when I was an institute teacher at the Boise State University Institute of Religion, teaching New Testament classes to 50 or 60 people at a time. I believed it then, and it was beautiful to me then. Of course it was. It was good and it was rich, and I felt so much peace in my life. I have attuned to the deepest principles of who is my neighbor, and washing the idea of washing the feet of somebody and having the love that he had, the way that he served. I have attuned deeply to it as someone who ascribes to his teachings and not to what I believe is a belief about his divinity that was created more for some levels of control and compliance. That
Mm.
I
Hmm.
don't know that my sense is that if he were to see what they've done with his organization, that he would not be pleased with it. But just a personal belief of mine. But my
Yeah.
point is that I've
No.
attuned to the
Yeah.
the, the principles deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And now, through your experiences, um, you've shifted, right? You shifted. And so
I
tell
did.
us,
Yeah, I'm a different leader. I'm a different person.
yeah. So tell us about Warrior Sage, and what you think, what you believe your mission is now.
Yeah. Let me share the big shift. The big shift
Yeah.
was I came to a place a year and a half, 2 years ago, where I developed a deep and abiding love for me. a deep level of respect and compassion, not a criticism, not, I can't believe you treated these employees this way. Look at all the dead bodies you left in your wake. Look at how you manipulated these deals to get this across the finish line. No wonder you failed here. And look at how many people hate you. Look at all these articles about you. And, I let go of all of that, and I developed a love for Vince that went through doing the best he could with what he believed, with the dogma and the thought prisons that he was in. And I suppose my wife's put it this way: I have laid flowers at that leader's feet, that Vince. I love what he did and how he served, but he's dead. He doesn't show up anymore in my life. And now, as one who has self-love and sees myself, it's so much easier. It's like a domino that's allowed me to see others so much more clearly and to love them so much more deeply and broadly and attuned to them. In that state, that emotional and relational state, I lead a company now where I help businesses, I should say, where I help leaders with, yes, their outer mastery, because you could have the biggest heart in the world, but if there's not some real mastery there on how to scale, how to automate, how to integrate AI, how to attract and retain a C-suite, how to raise capital for growth, and so forth, how to deploy that, how to merge or acquire or be acquired. Without those, there's not the opportunity to have the full impact and full contribution on society that one can have. So we take those skills, but we now combine them with that heart-centered, deep self-love, deep awareness, deep emotional attunement, and just a presence. It's not rooted in an exterior, I need this power I'm seeking. That's all false, just a facade, but a deep inner transformation that then from within leads the leader to be able to make an incredible and a significant impact on society. And so that's now what my life's about. And that's been a beautiful couple of year ride.
Wow. You you said a lot. You said a lot just now. I think of three things. There was more, but I'll just talk about three things. After all you've gone through, and after that, after living that person you were, you let go, right? You basically, and you could say metaphorically, buried that guy. And you said, you know what, you laid flowers on him. And you said, I'm not going to dwell in the past. I'm going to, and which leads me to the second thing is forgiving yourself, right? I'm sure there was that was involved. A friend of mine once told me that forgiveness is a greater miracle than the parting of the Red Sea. And there's a lot of truth to that, and learning to forgive others is one thing, but learning to forgive yourself a lot of times is an it's an entirely different thing altogether. And the third thing I'll say, um, beyond the letting go and the forgiveness, is learning to love yourself. And one of my favorite songs of all time is the late great Whitney Houston's "Greatest Love of All," right? Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all.
I didn't know that's what that song was about.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
greatest
I'm
love
gonna
of
have to go
all.
back and listen to
Yeah,
it.
go back and listen to that. I listen to it all the time, and it's
Uh,
so true, right? You hear people say, you know, um, you got to love yourself in order to love others, or for other people to be able to love you. And in a large sense, it's true. It's not everything, but learning to love yourself can be really, really hard for people. Really hard for people, right? And um, forgiving yourself is a really good first step, and letting yourself go. So
yeah,
you just, right? I mean, I think you just outlined three major steps to, I mean, really transforming your life into something better. And you like it, right?
yeah. There is in this show Tommy Boy, Adam Sandler talks about, or maybe it's Billy Madison. He talks about the O'Doyles, how they have all the cool stuff, and the O'Doyles rule. I remember my best man at my wedding, Brandon. He would say to me over year, he would always say to me, I would do something and be showing off and braggadocious, and he would say, "Vinny likes Vinny." It's
Vinny
funny.
likes Vinny.
In other words, he would say to
Yeah.
me, and I had the whole wrong idea. If you were to go back to Vince 5, 10, 15 years ago, oh, here he's a leader in the church, he's a leader in the community, he's a wealthy guy. He's got a 9,000 square foot home, he's got a dozen cars, he's got boats, airplanes. He's been a success. Look at his life. Look at this. I've got the admiration. I wonder if there's anybody I went to high school with that's richer than me. Like I thought that way. And
Yeah.
so I could have
Yeah.
looked at myself, and if somebody would have said at that time, you've got to love yourself, I'd say, yeah, nobody loves themselves more than me. Look at this. Right.
Yeah.
So
Look at this stuff.
I look, and I didn't
Yeah. No,
understand what,
that's not the
what that
point. That's
meant.
not the point.
That's not the point. I didn't get that. I didn't get it. And it's so funny that my friends would say to me, my best friend that knows me so well, Brandon, he would say, Vinny loves Vinny. And I'd say, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Wrong. Yeah.
totally missed the
Similar
point.
paths, but not quite the same.
Totally missed the point. But
Totally different, actually. Yeah.
now I look at it and I think, when I'm on a paddleboard with one of my daughters or on the golf cart, or I'm sitting and listening, like I was with a friend last night who texted me this morning, and he said something to the effect of, or in fact, he sent me a voice message, but he said, I felt so seen and supported. He said, I feel this last couple of years, I've been through a lot. The world's getting me down. I feel like my self-worth is low. He said, when I'm around you, I feel like I'm just this amazing human and I can do anything and I have all this potential. And I thought, that I love the guy that does that's his gift that he gives to his buddy, not the guy who's got this home or this or that.
Right.
And so now I understand the whole dynamic of Vinny loves Vinny differently. I
That's
love
amazing.
Vince now
That's
the way
wonderful.
my mom loved me.
Right. That is a really cool way of saying it. That's a really cool way of saying it. And we live in such a world. Uh, I say all the time that we're all kind of screwed up. I mean, everybody is screwed up in their own way, but one of the reasons why we're all screwed up that's common is that, we live in a world of scarcity and inadequacy, is what I call it. And because all the messaging that's, whether it be in social media or advertising, I mean, we're just bombarded with messages of inadequacy. And, and it's really, really hard. And of course, in social media, everybody's, there's all the messaging out there that says, if you're not like me, if you're not living like I am right now, you suck, right? And it's all inside. It's all inside. I tell people that, happiness is not out there. Your happiness is not out there. It's right here, right? It's right here. And another thing I love about you, I believe that we all share a common purpose, and that is to make the world better than the day we landed on it. And I've chosen to do that one person at a time. I think that when you lift others, you do lift the world. And when you live your life and someone comes to you and says, "You know what, Vinny? I mean, man, being around you lifts me." I mean, there's no greater compliment in my view. And that's just awesome that you're doing that, and that you've put yourself in a place now where you're not just serving yourself, basically. You're not chasing the money. If you do the right things, the money will come. But when you chase the money, a lot of times it runs away from you. And so it's really cool hearing your journey and where you are right now. So what's life like for you now?
Oh goodness. I don't have attachments to outcomes. I don't think of myself, if I don't hit this number or this size of business or this outcome, then I will have failed. It is much more of a flow state. It's much more authentic,
Cool.
so I don't feel like
That's
I'm
cool.
tired at the end of hanging out with the
Yeah.
group of people because I just am being myself. And it's a state of ease. It's a state of presence and awareness, attuning, and just seeing people, and that's a beautiful way to live.
That's yeah, it really is. And we live in going back to what you said about goals and so forth. I do believe in goals. I like goals. I like to set goals for myself. But you know what? Getting obsessed with goals and being, I mean, we live in a performance culture. I mean, we just do. And we're judged by how we perform. And you've kind of gone beyond that, where you said, you know what? I'm going to perform. I'm just not going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the things that make me who I am. And and that's a really cool place to be, tough place to get to. So if you were to, if when folks ask you, Vince, what are three things I can do to kind of start my journey in that direction? What would you tell them?
Oh boy, what a great question. The first one that comes to mind is I feel like I've had the best mentors on the planet. I think of those, and this sounds crazy, but literally probably a dozen mentors, three or four of which have been absolutely instrumental in my life.
Hmm.
Like, okay, that was essential. That was essential. But a dozen people where I truly sought people out. I was very calculated and deliberate in really positioning myself to be in the lives of a few key people that I thought they can help me get to this level of growth. And I still rely on them. I had a complex challenge 48 hours ago, and I sent a 3-minute voice message to a mentor of mine, and she replied with a 7-minute message. I finally listened to it just this morning when I was in the doctor's office for my allergy shot, and it brought me to tears because she
Uh,
gave me the wisdom that allowed me to turn inward and see the answer and say, there it is. So having mentors that are wise and spiritually inclined, they're in tune and
yeah.
they deeply care about you. It's a incredible and an expansive place to be. The second thing I believe
So wait,
is,
wait, before you go to the second thing,
you know,
how did you go about finding mentors and getting them to be your mentor? One of the things I tell people is, listen, it's one thing for you to want someone to be your mentor, but you got to provide them some value too,
yeah.
right? It should be a two-way street. But how do you go about recruiting, if you the
Well,
mentors you want?
three of the mentors I've simply paid with money, and it's a couple $100,000, and it was very well spent. I have said all my life the best investment is in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never fully understood what that meant until these last
Mm-hmm.
couple of years. That truly who I am becoming and how quickly can my evolution be accelerated through my own contribution and time with myself, time in meditation. Okay, my do I have time to meditate? I don't have time not to meditate. Ray Dalio,
There you
who I
go.
believe is one of the most successful people out there in both inner and outer dimensions. Great books, just a great example, great leader. Uh, he says that he wouldn't have done any of it without meditation. He owes it all to meditation. So that's, by the way, the second thing is truly like a half hour a day, and it may take time to build up to that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I meditate and I work out and I take time to every week have one of my mentors dialing me up, I am becoming, I'm capacitating, I'm increasing my capacity. It's like a factory that I can build 50 cars a day. Well, how do I expand this factory to be able to create 500 cars per day? And then ensuring that it is creating 500 cars a day, continuing to enlarge my capacity for leadership, for business mastery, constantly investing in myself, not just my outer mastery, but my inner mastery. That to me is I've got a mentor. I've got several mentors, some that I pay, some that I reciprocate through mentoring them. The guy I mentioned this morning, he helped me a month ago. And again, I was just in pure tears. One of his artistries and his mastery is helping people have deep clarity on their North Star, their meaning. One component of that he took me through in a 3-hour exercise was, what does Vince get out of helping others connect with their heart and scale their businesses and grow for impact? What does it do for Vince? And normally my natural inclination was to deflect, like, oh, I don't want to be selfless. I don't want to say what's in it for me. But he
Mm-hmm.
pushed, and finally he broke that wall down, like the freaking Great Wall of China. Like, he had to break it down like it was the Berlin Wall. And I finally got to this place of clarity of that. When I do that, every time I do that for somebody, I give Vince grace and forgiveness for all of the pain I caused as a bit of a maniac, as a bit of a reckless guy who was driving at a reckless speed, building businesses, and literally left thousands of people in frustrations, or if a um, place where they weren't recognized, they weren't being led the way they could have been led by a heart-centered leader. I unlock the grace and the forgiveness every time I give that to someone else. So it just deepens and keeps alive that self-love in a world where it's easy to get beat down and easy to be, external forces telling you that you're not. I'm able to keep very attuned in that space because of that. So some of the
Yeah.
relationships I have from a mentor standpoint are just reciprocal, where it's okay. This friend brings this great value. It's an energy exchange. I'm helping him, her, she's helping me here, and we're helping one another. In a few other cases, I've paid money, and it's been so worth it. It's been such a good investment. 100 times return, a
Yeah.
hundred times.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Did I miss number three?
So number three, I hadn't even gotten to yet, so I need to tune in and
Okay.
say, what would number three be?
Okay, that's all right. That's all right because number one and number two are just
I'll say
crazy.
this, yeah. Let me full cycle it this way. If the first one is mentors and the second one is meditation, um, and all that those two entail, then the third would be taking the time to deeply look inward and develop that source of deep self-love. I had a little bit of a cheat code with me. I found a letter after my mom died when I was 13. Here's this letter that she wrote. This is my wife, my mom, and I.
Oh, wow.
Here I find this letter years after she died. And when I was 13, I had started to wall up. I had started to, be the tough guy and you can't hurt me, because I had experiences when I was 5 and 10 that were, just being a human is, I think, difficult. Nothing crazy, frankly, but enough where I walled up and I put up armor, and I thought, I'm just going to be a tough guy. You can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I won't be vulnerable. My friend, who is a body double for The Rock, he's 6'5", 280 pounds of solid muscle. He said to me a decade ago, Vince, you can't be vulnerable, can you? He said something to the effect of, I can't be a pussy now. Because that's what I thought at the time. The
Yeah.
script that
Yeah.
I had from society said, don't be vulnerable, be a man. And I didn't understand the strength in vulnerability. So that
Yeah.
kept me from learning. Well, then I got to a state where I really could see my mom's letter when I'm 13. She's like, Vince, this new armor, this new tough guy, it's not you. You're charismatic. You're a magnet. You radiate love. You can change somebody's world in 20 seconds. And now I look back and I said, oh, she saw my true identity.
Yeah.
Now I see it. I see it. I
Yeah.
see what she saw. And those are gifts that each of us have. And I've been able to unlock those. And so the third one I would say then, John, is developing a deep sense of self-love, which unlocks everything else. There you have it.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I don't know how I can we can possibly wrap up this episode better than that. Um, you know, you went through a lot in your life, and like you said, there's a lot to forgive, right? And there's a lot to look back on and not love. But I do believe that pain is a great teacher if you're willing to listen to it. And, adversity is where we learn. And I love how you have taken all that and you've taken your life, you've examined your life. You got to a point where you said, okay, I need to look at this. You looked at it, you decided that a big part of you was worthy of being buried and left behind. And, which is an entirely new definition of let it go, right? But I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful metaphor, right? And out of the ashes rose the phoenix, and here you are. And here you are sharing your experience and helping folks understand what life can be like and how to get there. And this has been really cool. This has been really cool. And uh, I hope people share this. I encourage everybody, share this with people. Share this with folks, right? Because it's a journey that Vince went through and we can learn from that journey. Vince, you got anything else? Let you close it up.
Mm.
You've given us a lot.
I'll just share what one of my mentors said as he asked the question, what must I do? Who must I become to live so that at the end of my life, I have no regret? And I
There you
feel
go.
that that's a path that we're just continuing on, and it's what is better, what's the next better, and looking for that for my life and for the people around me and the contribution I can make, and that makes for a life of deep significance without regret.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will add something based on your story. You can't, looking back on your life, um, the regret you might have also help make you into the person you are, right? So, uh, regret can be an okay thing too,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's
But
that.
having
Yeah,
that spirit of I long ago, one of my mentors told me about the rocking chair exercise, and that rocking chair exercise says, put yourself in a rocking chair when you're 80 years old, and this was at the time 50 years from now, right? And as you're sitting in your rocking chair, what are you thinking about? What are your memories? Are you happy with your life? What did you do? Right? And I've never forgot that because I someday I'm going to be sitting in my rocking chair. and, and I am what that's helped me to do is to consciously build my life in terms of what I want to be looking at and go live that life, right? What are the things that I would regret? Don't do that. Don't go through that door. But just simple things like that. But Vince, this has been amazing. If people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they do that?
yeah. VinceCovino.com or WarriorSage.com. There's a lot there.
WarriorSage.com. And they can go there. Vince, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. You've had an amazing life, an amazing journey, an amazing transformation. And here you are sharing it and helping people go through that themselves. So thank you for joining me. I love you. God bless you. Thank you so much. There are folks out there that are going to get a lot out of this conversation. Everybody out there, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Please share this because I'm gonna go back and listen to this again because there's just so much rich information and experience that Vince provided and offered to us. So, with that, Vince, again, thank you, And y'all, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, it was an honor.